Hello. Welcome back to WYDAF Live. I'm Alan Ibbotson, your host, and it's a pleasure to be back. And of course, this very first episode of season 2, we have Vivienne Duebbert joining us, who was also the first guest on season 1. Today's a big topic. There are headlines everywhere about the return to work, the struggle between leaders and the talent base about the return to office. There are people going back to work and getting sick. There are people who have moved far away from their offices. There are so many things going on that it's hard to make sense of it. And so what I wanted to do in this first WYDAF live of the season is really talk about that and help leaders think about, what do we do? How do we manage this? I hate the word unprecedented because we've been using it for 2 years, but it really is an unprecedented time. So even after 2 years of a pandemic, a racial reckoning, and a war, nothing has really prepared us for what is this really huge transition moment that we're going through right now. And we all seem to be struggling with this question of, how do we come back together to work? And it's clearly not as simple as work from home, remote, hybrid, go back to the office, because our habits have changed, our tolerance levels have changed, our values have changed, what we prioritize. And so by definition, that means that we have to lead differently. And every leader I know is struggling with this one and thinking about it and talking about it. So I wanted to bring in my good friend and mindset expert, Vivienne Duebbert, to talk about this and maybe give us some tips to think about how we can approach this as leaders, because there's a struggle going on, and I think it's time that we just put down the tools and really started to think about how we approach it. So Vivienne, please join me. I know you're out there in the universe.
Hello.
There you
Hello,
are.
Alan. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Glad to be here again. Thank you
I'm
for
so
inviting
happy you're here. Welcome back, Vivienne.
Thank you. All the love to you, to New York, and all the love to everyone out there. Very
And I, you might kill me for saying this, but everybody, I'm sending you love, Vivienne, because you got engaged this week.
Yes,
so awesome.
I did, to the love of my life. So I'm very happy and very excited. So it's been quite an exciting week.
Yes, it has. Well, congratulations. We're thrilled for you.
Thank
And
you.
especially and really happy and grateful that you took time out of such a special week to join us to talk about this. So you heard my intro. There's so many headlines about this right now. Everyone I talk to is thinking about it, struggling with it. I guess my first question for you, Vivienne, are we ever going to go back to the office full time? Do you think that, based on what you're experiencing with your clients, I can only speak from my own, but what are you experiencing with your clients? Like, what's the general consensus? Do you think that hybrid is here to stay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. And as you said in the beginning as well, I completely agree. It's such an important and hot topic. I personally, and from what I see working with big corporations, the hybrid will definitely, well, that's my opinion, that it will stay. In my opinion, also, we all know that it would have come at some point anyways, right? Because it's the future in a way. So COVID kind of accelerated the future for us and the digitization for us. So I think it will stay, because not only are we now used to having that mix after those 2 years, but also if we consider the different generation, the generation mix, and for example, the millennials coming into the workforce, we all know that they also do have the expectations of being more flexible. So I think in the end, it's definitely our new normal in a way. So it matters, how do we deal with the situation? Do we deal with this transition right now? And also, how do we deal with the situation as leaders, of course, as you said?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that it's created so much ambiguity. I mean, oftentimes in change, right, during periods of change, we sort of know what the end point looks like,
Mhm,
and we can look to that and sort of say, okay, that's where we're headed. But I
mhm,
think what's stressful for folks about this one, especially leaders, sort of trying to figure out how to attract and retain talent, because of course that's a big thing right now, is the
exactly.
fact that there really is no clear end point,
Mhm.
and the balance of power seems to be at least partially shifted in favor of the workforce, and that is causing some seismic kind of tremors inside organizations that are very hard for them to deal with.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I mean, even before the pandemic, for those of you who have been, diving into the new work aspect and agility and Scrum, etc., and all these methods, we know that flexibility and also sort of flat hierarchies are becoming more and more popular in a way. Of course, it always depends on the corporation, it depends on the culture, it depends on the work that you do. However, it is, in my opinion, something that we as leaders have to be confronted with in a way. And this is why, in my opinion, it means self-empowered teams in a way, helping your teams to become more in a way independent and self-empowered is power as a leader, because
Yeah.
we have this mind shift in a way, right? We are so used to, and I include myself in it as a leader, to kind of enjoy being in charge and enjoy also leading others to, but still being the one that's steering the wheel in a way. And I think in the past years, not only through COVID, I think in the past years this just has been changing rapidly. And this is why I think it's extremely important as a leader to understand sort of also the win-win situation behind that. And one aspect of this win-win situation is that by self-empowering your team as a leader, you are in a way still powerful, because you're helping other people to grow and you're helping other people to also learn from you, right? Like, for example, if you think back, and all of you listening to us, just think back. If you look at your life, think back to one person that really helped you grow and thrive, whether it was a teacher, whether it was a boss, whether it was a colleague or a friend. I'm sure we all have this one person, right? Maybe we have many, but if you think of one person right now, what made this person so special? So, in a
Right.
way, what made that person special was that person helped you to grow. That person helped you to develop your skills. Maybe that person also trusted you in a way. So, and this is why we know, and this is where it comes into the power of human connection, because we know that us humans, we can have such a strong effect, positive effect on other people. And this is where I also see the aspect of win-win as a leader, understanding that if I help my people grow and become independent and really sort of working together as one team, then maybe I can be that person that people will remember.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think a lot of leaders are struggling with the notion, the practicalities of that,
Mhm.
right? In this new environment where some people are in the office, some people are not, some people are here, part time. So I'm interested in this discussion around how does it change the way that we lead, right? Our practices as leaders. There are many leaders out there who are great coaches, very focused on developing their people, etc. Uh, but this is different, right? This is a different time, and the expectations of being at work now are not necessarily about being at work in an office
Mhm.
for many people.
Mhm.
Um, And there's a sense in many circles that a lot of leaders are sort of feel like they're losing their power,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because they don't have that, command control. It's not their teams are kind of dictating the terms,
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
than before. So is that what advice do you have for leaders who are struggling with that feeling? Because that certainly is a mindset, right? It is a shift in the way that you frame this and the way that you think about it as a leader. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah. I always think that looking at the big picture, especially as a leader, is crucial. And if you look at the big picture, and if you look at the time that we're living in, we're in times of the digital world, the digitization, and it's going to accelerate exponentially, right? It's going to become even faster in terms of change. And this means that you need people to be more independent, and you need people to understand their value and their purpose at work. And here, in my opinion, I think it's very powerful as a leader to understand that, first of all, to have that self-empathy, right, when it comes to dealing with this change and dealing with understanding that, okay, I have to kind of shift in a way the way I deal with my employees, rather than, now, as you said, the wheel is turning in a way. And there's also this statement, you said it as well, that in the end, employees become our customers, or we can, as leaders, treat employees as customers. I find that super interesting and very powerful, because this workforce is changing. And I'm always a huge fan of radical acceptance and really understanding that the change is our constant. I keep on being a broken record towards that. What we all know, that this is part of our life. Change is our constant, and understanding that as a leader now, I can, in a way, reinvent myself. And yes, as I said before, in my opinion, power as a leader means having teams that work well, that are motivated, that see their purpose and their meaning and their why in what they're doing, that feel seen, that feel acknowledged, that feel respected. Because when we feel like that, when we feel like we are part of this whole this whole picture, then we have a completely different intrinsic motivation, right? So we
Yeah.
achieve much more, we're much more motivated, we're much more productive. So this, in my opinion, is the true power as a leader, to have these, to create these teams and to build this trust around it. And yeah, I think right now, especially when it comes to what we said in the beginning, when it comes to these challenging times, what I always find very, very important is to understand that no matter what, in this transition right now, the emotions are normal, right? You as a leader having strong emotions and maybe not liking certain situations and maybe not even liking the change of the workforce right now, of the work world in a way. So kind of accepting these emotions, and at the same time understanding that you as a leader have such a great possibility and opportunity and chance here to actually grow together and to create this work revolution in a way.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's certainly a hopeful message. I think a lot of folks might not know what radical acceptance is. Do you want to kind of give your definition of radical acceptance?
Yes, yes, I would love to. It's one of my favorite subjects. Well, I always, in my opinion, some very, very important skills. I call them the 3 R's, and one is radical acceptance. The other two I can get into a little bit later. Radical acceptance in a way means there's a changeable world and there's an unchangeable world, which means that, for example, the pandemic is my unchangeable world. The digitization, the world that we're living in right now, is my unchangeable world. Other people, in a way, are also my unchangeable world. But my changeable world is my mindset, and at the same time, also accepting certain situations that I cannot change, sort of adapting, and it is what it is. And to then still have, and that's the second R, to still have the realistic optimism of understanding, okay, what are my next steps and what exactly can I do next?
Yes, and I always think with radical acceptance, and this may sound a little heavy, but I think it is an important thing to acknowledge. Radical acceptance requires that you grieve what you don't have anymore, right? That you actually acknowledge this is not coming back, this is not changing, and actually sit with that and be able to let that go in a
Yes.
way that you can release it and start to move forward, because you can't change anything until you've accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at what's going on in the workplace between leaders and the talent,
Mm-hmm.
it's because neither side are really accepting where we are right now, so that they can sort of start to find that common ground. And so it's becoming a struggle as opposed to a discussion and a negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Brene Brown was talking about this on her podcast this week, a couple of weeks ago with Scott Sonnenschein.
Yes.
And it was really great. I think you probably heard that conversation too.
Amazing conversation. I can highly
Right.
recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was interesting because there are some things about this that will just have to be somewhat mandated, right? So if you're going to go back to the office, all right, how many days, what days, so that the benefits of being in the office can be realized. Now, there are people who don't necessarily believe in the benefits of being in the office. So I think that's something to talk about as well. And actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm having a terrific guy who wrote a book with his colleagues called The Workplace That You Need Now. And he's a head of research for a large real estate organization. And so we're going to talk about what that means in terms of how you use your physical space as your building, your office.
Yes.
Because it seems like the role of the office is changing as well. Like it's got to be meaningful to go back there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And what you said just now in terms of letting go, I think this is a very important aspect, letting go. And also, and Brene Brown also talked about that with Scott Sonnenschein, that it is about letting go. And at the same time, it is also about adjusting your expectations, right? Because right now, we are so used to having our freedom. And yet at the same time, we are also so much urging in a way of wanting security, right? So it's sort of like two things at the same time. And I think that if you were able, and you said this to me when we were talking before this live, I find that amazing to see the office as a magnet and to create the office as a magnet. And this is, in my opinion, it's not about entertaining your employees, or it is more so about creating this human connection and creating the understanding of the need of human connection, of the need of really coming together. But then again, coming together for reasonable times and not just simply sitting in the office. And I have clients, they go back to the office and they're sitting in front of Teams or Zoom in the office talking to another colleague that's in somewhere else in the same office. So here we have, for example, some external aspects that can be adjusted, but by time. But then a lot of times, we put ourselves under the pressure. And I think we live in this world where, it's all about trends, and it's all about, okay, now this is, we have to adapt to this new trend and to this new trend. And before the pandemic, it was the new work trend, the agile work, etc. And then came the pandemic, and then we were sort of pushed into the trend of adapting to home office. And now I think we sort of pushed into the new trend of adapting to the hybrid world. And I think this is why radical acceptance is so important, to understand that, okay, it is here to stay. So let's find a way to keep our expectations low, in a way to understand that we are all human beings. I heard this earlier. We are not human doings. we're human beings. So let's get together as human beings and understanding that in the end, it is about taking small steps and also about finding out what exactly do we need right now? What is really important for all of
Yeah.
us?
Yeah. And, office is a magnet. Yeah. So that, how do you build up that magnet feeling? Thank you for that question. I do want to kind of show something actually to kind of, just to
Yes.
build on that point. So we did a survey. We got, about 100 responses, I think, right? What should companies put more focus on to ensure that their employees feel good about coming back to the office? Because I was really sort of curious to find out, because I'm having so many conversations about this with my own clients. And so, inclusive leadership, there's been a lot of talk, of course, in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, the racial reckoning. There's been a lot of talk about people of color, especially, not feeling as psychologically safe in the workplace, microaggressions, and feeling better and safer and more comfortable working from home. That's been a big thing. I've read so much about that and had so many conversations about that. So the inclusive leadership thing is very real. Meaningful collaboration. So is it about going in and actually kind of working on things that add big value to the organization, that help you grow your career, that give you opportunities to do big things that really sort of help you grow, develop, connect with people, make a big contribution to the business? Should you go in for mentoring, coaching, and training and spend more time with your boss, or pairing up with other subject matter experts to learn more about what they do, for instance, and training programs and outside speakers and events that kind of bring people together around a big idea or a topic and kind of open up dialogue that helps you learn? And then food and fun, because we hear so much about, okay, the office snacks and the pool table and the this and that, and Google pioneered all of that, right? So how important is that really in the grand scheme of things? How do you think it shook out, Vivienne? What do you think?
Well, I would say between meaningful collaboration and mentoring and coaching and training, in a way, they can sort of fit together as well, I would say. What are the
All
expectations?
right.
What do you think when you?
Well, I know the answer, so I see you can't. I know the answer, so I'll just share it with you. So
Oh, there
this is
you
how it
go.
shook out. This is how it
There you
shook out.
go. Mm-hmm.
I thought food and fun would get a little more than 1%. That was actually like one person. So I know the guy very well, so I'm not surprised he picked food and fun. But I love him. So meaningful collaboration by far was the biggest thing, right? As we
Yes.
can see here. And a good number for mentoring, coaching, and training for sure. That's good for our business, Vivienne. But 68% saying meaningful collaboration. What do you take from that in terms of just a point of insight?
Well, first of all, it makes me very hopeful that people see the importance of it, of meaningful collaboration. And second of all, we see here one person is writing, for some people going back to the office is traumatic, which can be very, very. Of course, it can be very emotional, and there are so many different aspects towards going back into the office. So even more so, this meaningful collaboration is so important, and it could also answer one part, the question of that was raised earlier: how can we create, or what tips do you have for creating the office as a magnet? I think this is the internal aspect, right, of creating the office as a magnet to mentor and to make sure to integrate the meaningful collaborations. But at the same time, it's not something that just happens like that, right? Some people do not see neither the need for it. Some people also think, I don't have time for this, right? Also, when we talk about empathy, and a lot of people think, oh, these are soft skills, and I'm here for creating numbers and on results. However, in my opinion, this ongoing mentoring, in a way, whether it's what you were just saying, whether it is incorporating some lunch and learns, or some getting speakers in, or also having some fun group activities, no matter what you can do, but on a regular basis, to promote the importance of the meaningful collaboration. I think this is really key, because a lot of times we always say, oh yeah, we need to do this and we need to do that and we need to do such and such. And it's the same thing with us personally, right? When we say, oh, I need to lose weight, I need to eat more healthier, I need to, sleep more, etc. And then a lot of times we know everything, but a lot of times we don't do it the way we want to do it. And this is why I think this creating the win-win and creating the understanding of the power of those meaningful collaborations, and also finding out what does meaningful collaboration mean to everyone, because we do have different types of people and we do have different needs, right? Well, there you go. He probably has a different definition of meaningful collaboration.
Max has needs right now, I think, just to be cuddled and be in on the action. This is Max, everybody, the office mascot. So I agree with you, and I think if you've read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, another great podcast with Brene Brown, the thing that he said about we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And I think if we're going to be successful in navigating this transition, we have to find ways to create systems that work. We need to blow up our old systems and reinvent new systems that work for all of us. And so, meaningful collaboration to me means that we have to think about, be more structured perhaps in what that looks like, right? And more deliberate in what that looks like, and perhaps a little more scientific, and put more discipline into the way that we collaborate. So that we feel that it is beneficial, it is game changing, it's big things. It's not just, oh, we're coming together to have a chat and solve a little problem. It's got to be something that really connects people too and helps them learn from each other. I think that's the magic that happens in a room that really can't happen over Zoom.
Yes, exactly. And I think that one aspect that you can integrate is to find little pockets or little moments to really communicate with your people, whether it's on one-on-one, or maybe if you have your return to office, and like we know some people are thinking, oh yeah, finally, we're reconnecting, I was waiting for this, and other people are like, oh my God, like I don't want this, I have my commute to do, I have to look for parking space, it's and a lot of people are not used to this connection anymore. And I include myself in it as well. When I have live gigs now traveling to the client, I have to get used to that again. And a lot of times we're sort of in this habit, right? We're habit creatures. We get used to certain aspects. And if we look back and if we see how quickly we got used to being in the home office, because remember at first people were saying, oh my God, no, how am I going to do this from home? And I get distracted. And now the majority, not everyone, but the majority of people actually enjoy the home office. So I think, in my opinion, it really shows how much we are habit creatures. And at the same time, it also shows, and it gives hope, how quickly we can adapt again. So I think if you create this communication in the team, and if you show yourself as a leader also being vulnerable, saying, okay, hey guys, here we are again, returning to office, and also sharing as a leader your own feelings, and maybe even saying, yes, I'm struggling myself, and before I came here I was wondering, how is this going to work out, and is it even worth coming to the office? If you show this honesty and authenticity that we've been talking about for quite some while, you can really achieve a game changer in people's minds, and they can open up to you. And if you ask that question, for example, what are your feelings being or getting back to the office? And you can even, if you say, oh, I'm not sure if depending on what what teams you have, depending on what exactly your work is like. You can also do them anonymously. You can use a certain, you could do that before going back to the office and asking people to fill out a questionnaire and do a quick survey to find out what exactly are your emotions, what are you fearing, what are you afraid of, and at the same time also what could be the benefit of returning to office and of having this hybrid world. Because I think in the end, it is about finding the best of both worlds. And it is about understanding that, yes, we can create the office as a magnet, but we can only do that if we understand the reason why it is so powerful. And if we at the same time also reduce, I think we had the comment earlier, reduce, Stacy was saying, reduce, we no longer want to accept time wasters when time is so precious. So also reducing those, meetings just for the sake of having meetings, etc. But
that's a big thing. I think a big part of this, I feel, is that people are reclaiming their time. They're reclaiming their time. And so if I've got, 10 hours of the day where I've dedicated 8 to 10 hours of the day that I've dedicated to work or sort of anything to do with work, then I don't want to spend that time sitting in traffic. I don't want to spend that time, polluting the environment, being, away from home, because I can multitask. I can feed the kids as I'm listening into a call or whatever it might be. People have found ways to integrate their lives, right? The sort of their work and their home life in ways that work for them, and they're getting more done. But at the same time, we've also got record levels of burnout. I don't know an HR person in the world anywhere, for example. I'm kind of talking about HR as like almost like the new nurses, right? They are, because they're taking care of everyone in their organizations, but they're not always taking care of themselves. And then a record number of folks, particularly in that business. And I think this is happening to managers too, right? It's happening to managers too. They're taking care of people and trying to navigate all of this, but who's taking care of them? It's challenging, right? It's very, very challenging. And then you go back, right? And then you've got the, excuse my language, but you've got the bullshit things that happen when you go back to the office, because our tolerance levels have dropped. Our tolerance levels for being around, like, the stinky tuna in the microwave have like dropped significantly, to the point where, even that kind of thing is becoming, it's getting headlines, right? People are kind of getting into conflicts. I had a conversation with someone that I'm coaching just last week about, they were stressed out because a party, a sort of happy hour was starting, at a 5:30 or, whatever, the time was. And they were trying to get work done in an open plan office. And so it became very difficult for them. And they were getting sort of super annoyed about that situation. And so, you've got a leader who sort of wants to be part of a culture where people are coming together, but at the same time getting really annoyed about the fact that when people, do that at the end of the day to sort of, have a beer, the implications of that, because they're just not used to being in that kind of environment for a couple of years.
But here's what there's a lot of psychological lift to go from isolating and exactly, let's have a happy hour. What I personally find so powerful is the psychoeducation, is for everyone to really understand how does our brain work and how does our subconscious work, how powerful our thoughts are, how powerful our words are, how we can deal with our emotion. You and I, we're a huge fan of Susan David and emotional agility, how we can accept our emotions, etc., and show up to them. And what I find in my line of work, and I'm sure that you've experienced the same, is that it's very, very crucial to understand, like, for example, how does our negativity bias work, right? We place 3 times the amount on a negative aspect than on a positive. And we know the situation, right? We can have a fantastic day, and then we have this one email or this one comment, and one comment or email like really ruin our
One
entire
word can ruin your day.
I
Yeah.
know, and you like get stuck to it. You cling onto it. Like, why did he just say? And a lot
Who,
of
me?
times, if
No.
afterwards you resolve that, you find out, oh, that's what you meant. So we have this negativity bias that we focus on the negative aspects, and we are being primed with the media as well, and also not only being primed. Let's face it, we're living in extremely challenging times with the pandemic, with the political situation, with war. So there's a lot of fear going on right now. And if we understand what's happening, and for example, if we understand this negativity bias, then we can create the self-empathy and the empathy and the emotional intelligence towards others. Because with that tuna, for example, if I'm in the office and, oh God, someone is, reheating his melted tuna sandwich and I smell the tuna everywhere, if I know how my brain functions and that I can get stuck to it and really blow it out of proportion, then if I know that, then I can create this self-awareness and the self-regulation, which is part of emotional intelligence, towards creating more empathy. And the more empathy I have, and the more empathy towards myself that I have, the better I can actually deal with everything that is now piling up and in a way bothering us going back to the office. So this is, in my opinion, this is why EQ and the emotional intelligence is so important as leaders, and also as for all of us to ignite this awareness.
Absolutely. And if we take, just that, it's a silly example, but it's real in the sense that people are real. Oh, there's Max. Kind of going to put him down.
He agrees. He agrees. That's
good. So managers are going back into the office and they're dealing with other people getting annoyed about the tuna, right? And so now we have to have ground rules and sort of guides about office food and these sort of seemingly trivial things that everybody just kind of like dealt with before, but have a low tolerance for now. And I think it's personally, I think it's not even really about that. I think it's that our bandwidth is so stretched by the stresses of burnout. If we're going back to the office, the stress of that in terms of, well, is everybody vaccinated? Should I, wear a mask? What's my office environment? There are a lot of people who've gone back to office and then gone to conferences and gotten sick, and then have to, and then had to go back to a work from home policy. Airlines having to cancel flights because the mask mandate has gone. Staff have fallen sick. They've had to cancel flights. I mean, there's so much going on that is it really about the tuna? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it's really about the tuna. I think it's about the fact that we're just exhausted.
Exactly.
We're just freaking exhausted. And the tolerance levels are low. And so then it's very hard to have empathy, because empathy is a form of energy, right? That you give out to others. It's very hard to have that if you are just like, I'm so exhausted.
Yes. The tuna, we can call it the tuna trigger. The tuna is the trigger. So we have the tuna trigger here. But yes, exactly. We are all exhausted. We are tired, all of us. And especially also when we talked about it in advance, when it comes to this live, we were talking about all the aspects that leaders have to take into consideration, right? Besides your regular workload, you have to be agile, you have to be resilient, you have to be empathetic, you have to have those mindfulness, you have to have a mindful conversation with your people and whatever. And at the same time, you have to take care of yourself as well. So I think this is why we also talked about at some point, it becomes a bit a kill your ego subject as a leader, to understand, okay, on the one hand, yes, I do have to take care of myself as a leader, which is very important, the aspect of self-care, the aspect of self-awareness, the aspect of resilience, etc. And at the same time, I also have to have or may have the time to and see the need to see what my people need and to sort of put my ego aside, because a lot of times when it also comes to this, oh my God, are you serious? Like you're fighting over like a tuna sandwich? You got to be kidding me. And at some point, as you said, to understand, okay, it's not the tuna sandwich, it's the tuna trigger. So let's deal with what needed and let's push ego in a way aside. And also when it comes to retention and when it comes to the expectations of the whether it's the millennials, but in general of us in the workforce. And also there you have this killer ego subject as a leader at some point, to sort of push aside your ego and to understand at the same time that it is, as I said in the beginning, it is a huge win-win to have your people grow and be self-empowered, and also to have them learn that they can talk about what's going on, like to create this ground, this safe space in a way, to have them talk about what really bothers them, and also to have all of them, we were talking about growth mindset as well, to have them understand that failure or making mistakes, especially in this transition here, is completely normal, right? I mean, all the mistakes and failures that we've done in the beginning of the pandemic with home office, we've also been there. And this is the third R, by the way, from the radical acceptance, the realistic optimism, and the retrospective, to always ask yourself, in hindsight or in retrospective, if I now see myself in, let's say, 3 years from now, looking back at this time, how will I have mastered and managed my team to grow and myself to grow? And I think this is really a way for us to reignite that power inside, and to also reignite the resources that we have and our employees' resources.
No, I agree with you. And I know a lot of great leaders, obviously, who are really focused on developing their teams and building teams. The mechanics of and just the sort of the social aspect of what is happening right now is making it difficult, for them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client, for instance, who the mandate from above was everybody back in the office 5 days a week. This was last summer. And I wondered at the time, how's that going to work out? Like, how is that going to work out? Let's see how that plays out. And of course, as you might expect, it's not a 5 days a week in the office. They've settled on something like a 3-2, right? So people are in the office 3 days a week. They're working from home a couple of days a week. So that was interesting to watch that play out, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of that struggle, if you like. And mm-hmm. It took a lot of courage on the part of the leaders in the organization to push back upwards to say, we're going to lose people if we don't have some flexibility, because the talent market is so powerful right now. People can walk and get jobs elsewhere if they don't get their needs met. And I think what we're finding is that our needs have changed. Yes. Our needs have changed. Our values have changed. Our priorities have changed. You know that I got hit by a truck, right? And when I got hit by a truck, there was me before that and there was me after that. And after that, I prioritize things differently. Now, if I'm feeling stressed, tired, my body's aching because of, injuries and so on, I take the time to rest. I listen to my body and I take the time to rest, because I know that there's only one of me, right? And I value and appreciate different things than I did perhaps before. Mm-hmm. And I think Scott Sonnenschein was talking about this when he was talking to Brene Brown on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. There's this phenomenon that people who have been through, whether it's an illness or an accident or something traumatic, they have a perspective that is different afterwards.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what's interesting to me is I think that we've actually all had that experience over the last 2 years, right? Because we've had this collective trauma. Let's just call it what it is. We've had a collective trauma. And after a trauma, you see things differently.
Yes.
And I think there are some who have been less affected by that. And I think that in many ways is tied to privilege. And in many ways, that privilege is tied to power.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in our offices and our boardrooms and our executive suites, right? And so it is playing out again in a new and different way.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it can be seen as, more of the same. And
Yes.
so what's interesting to me about this moment is we're seeing people unionize, we're seeing workers organize, we're seeing that power balance shift, and it's a really interesting time, I think, to be a leader, because you've got to sort of walk that line of corporate policy, and you're responsible for deploying that, mandating that, kind of executing on that, and developing, retaining, keeping, motivating, engaging teams. And there are many times that feels like opposite things right now. And I think that is part of the struggle that so many people, are having. And I think we have to recognize that and be brave as leaders in pushing up and carrying down, and making sure that people, can come together, organizations and people can come together in ways that all of their needs get met. And it's not going to be easy.
No, it's not going to be easy. And I think, I'm sure you know the quote of Maya Angelou: people will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And this is why I find it's such a powerful time. Like, it's such a include this energy of curiosity for what's happening right now. It is a new work life. It is a new work area, an era, and you can, in a way, as a leader, really create. And not only as a leader, as a team in general, you are right now in the moment where you can create the new work world in a way where you really can leave that footprint onto other people's souls, and at the same time, as I said in the beginning, create this win-win situation. Because the more your people feel seen, acknowledged, and secure, and valued and appreciated, the more they will work with you, and the more you guys can actually create something bigger together. And this is why I always love to use this big picture. And just like you were saying, also astronauts, right? They have a different view on situations when they come back to the world. So
I mean, absolutely. Paul Mason. Hi, Paul. Paul was one of my first bosses back in the day. 60% of people want hybrid work arrangement, 2 days in the office. Main influences the commute, their personal well-being, that people are putting themselves first. Health, wellness, sanity, peace of mind, balance, able to sort of, meet all the needs, especially if you live far away from home, or you have a family life that's, demanding, young kids, or caring for elderly parents, etc. It's challenging, and it goes back to this notion of kill your ego to keep your people, right? Because you can't do all the things that you've just been talking about from a place of ego and power and control. You can't do both of those things. There are many dialecticals, but that's not one of them.
Yes.
And so I think it's going to be increasingly important to lean on emotional intelligence, empathy, compassion, flexibility, curiosity, to really understand what people need from their working experience, and how you can provide that to every extent possible if you are going to engage and keep people on the team.
Exactly. And to understand that everyone is different, everyone has different needs, and everyone is dealing with the situation in a different way. So really understanding that there is not one size fits all, and there are no quick fixes. It's something that it is a journey, and it is a path that we're going on right now. And the more we can understand that we have different needs, we have different situations, we have some are happy, some are not happy going to the office. So the more you can also understand that as a leader, and in a way then kill your ego, the better you can actually boost. Oh yeah, here we go, Nejat Bahaklev. Yes, it's not so easy. It has to be really individual. Every human being is feeling the new normal differently. Exactly. So the more we can understand that, the more we can create this need for human connection, and the more we can be emotionally intelligent and emotionally agile, the better we can actually go on this journey together.
And if you are a leader and you're expected to do that, you need to do that. But if you're going to do that, you have to make sure that the well is also full and take care of yourself. So that's my parting thought. Vivienne, thank you for being with me. We're out of time. We're out of time. But it's been a pleasure to have you back. Thank you so much for joining me for the first WYDAF Live of Spring 22. It's great to see you. Congratulations again on your engagement.
You so
Can we see the ring? Can we see the ring? Come on, show us the ring.
Oh, the ring has to be resized. I have a preliminary right now. Yes.
We'll post a picture. We'll post a picture.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Alan. And thank you everyone for participating and for your comments.
Great comments.
Amazing.
We're going to come back into the comments and respond to some of those awesome things that have been said in the comments. So stay tuned for that and stay with us. Thanks, Vivienne. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.